Hey, it's me. It's Brent Leary. You know who I am, I hope, by now. Maybe. Anyway, Brent Leary. And this is my first few good minutes in a couple of weeks. Um, I've had some good minutes in between a few good minutes, but I'm so glad to be back doing this. This is fun. Now, the person that I'm going to bring on, my first guest in a little bit, just met him last month at Pega World. His aura preceded him in me meeting him because I did a little searching on the web. Actually, let me take this back just a step. I want to show you the first impression I had when I heard that this guy was going to be on my show. This is the image I found. Now, I have to admit, it's a pretty intense image. He looks pretty tough. He looks like he could be starring in a movie or something like, Conan the Barbarian or something like that. So when I first met him in Vegas, I was a little apprehensive, but he was actually a really nice guy, really cool guy, really a rock star. Matter of fact, before I bring him out, let me allow him to kind of introduce himself. Check this out.
Dodkins, customer experience, Burduck, Sound Road, Chat GPT, Snoop, Deagle Double G.
Right, so for anyone that doesn't know this, I used to play guitar in a heavy metal band. I released albums, I toured the world, I played shows with my idols. Yes, I used to be an actual real-life legitimate award-winning rock star. But now I'm not. Now I'm a customer experience rock star, and I look for ways to improve customer experience with lessons from the rock world.
Customer experience, make it right, make sure they happy day and night. Got a team of experts ready to assist, give them the best that's on the list. Customers on the phone, they just want to be heard. Got a problem, want to speak with a no. Gotta give them service, that's the name of the game. Make sure they're satisfied, that's the aim. Listen to their complaints.
Yeah, you gotta like it when somebody can roll with. Let me bring myself back on. You got to check this out. Now, he said he's a rock star. He's a legitimate rock star. But the other cool thing about it is he incorporates all this rock stuff into the CX stuff. Check out this shirt. ACX DCX. I like that. I like that. ACDC, back in the day, guys with gray beards would know what I'm talking about. But also a little Run DMC. So he's mixing Run DMC, ACDC, Snoop Dogg, ChatGPT, and CX. Let me bring on the one and only James Dodkins.
What an intro. Thank you very much, man.
Dude, you deserve every last bit of that, man. This is great. Thanks for joining me. Now, we had such a great conversation when you joined me and Paul Greenberg on the Players. For whatever reason, the audio just wasn't up to snuff. So I was like, nah, we can't let him go out like that. We're gonna have to bring him on and give him a few good minutes to talk about how you made this transition, man. How you went from a legit award-winning rock star, lead guitarist. I mean, you're the man.
I do have to say that picture that you showed, right? Number one, I don't know what filter you put on that, but it makes it. It actually made it look a little more approachable. So thank you for that. But I've changed my picture now because of the ridicule that I've been getting from you and others. Thank you.
Well, you know what? I knew that because when I found out you're going to be on this show, I was like, oh, let me go back to LinkedIn and this is what I saw. I was like, wait a minute.
Yeah, dude, what is that filter? What are you? Because that isn't how the picture usually looks. It's all smooth and stuff. I mean, I like it. I look airbrushed.
I'm learning my way around Photoshop, and I was like, this guy's got a nice. So you went from this,
to
this. I was like, well, okay, maybe.
I mean, that's barely even a smile. Let's be honest. So I've got a medical condition, right? It's called hostile resting face. So just my normal face. I could be the happiest guy in the world because my normal face is miserable. I have heard a new term for it though, right? This might be the first time this has ever been spoken about on LinkedIn.
Oh,
resting beast face.
resting beast face. Is this like because of Mr. Beast or something? Or
no, I think because there's another term that's a very similar one, which I'm guessing you don't know what it is, because otherwise that would have been hilarious. But but it's yeah, it's just some people have just got miserable faces. I am one of them. I've been blessed with a miserable face.
not at all, man. Not at all. You had the intensity up when
Is
that
that what it
picture was
is?
taken. That's what it was. But anyway, thank you for doing this, man. I've been waiting for this because I was in an event about 15 years ago, and they called it the Rock Stars of Social CRM, in which none of the four of us that were a part of that were rock stars. Everybody gets the rock star of whatever industry. You're literally a rock star and
Well,
a
it was.
CX guy. So how did you?
Not anymore.
Well, yeah, but tell me a little bit about the rock and roll, and then tell me, how did you make the transition? Why did you go from rock star to, you know what, I'm going to be a CX person?
Yeah, it's a good question. So yeah, used to play guitar in a heavy metal band, toured the world, released albums, all that fun stuff. Then when I stopped doing that, I thought, well, you know what is the logical next step after being an international rock god? So I joined an insurance company.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So I started selling insurance on the phone, figured out pretty soon, probably don't want to do this forever. So worked my way through the corporate, ladder. Then I got made redundant. So for the people in the US, that's being downsized. I wasn't fired. It's just my job didn't exist anymore. And during my corporate career, we had loads of really expensive, crappy consultants come through. So I thought, you know what? I could be a really expensive, crappy consultant. So that's what I did. I became a really expensive, crappy consultant, and it was great. I got to work with some wicked companies: Disney, Lego, Adobe, American Express, brands like Nike, airlines all over the world, governments all over the world. Problem was, I was kind of miserable because I'd created this corporate persona for myself. Like, it was the way I thought you had to be in business to succeed in business. And I was spending like 90% of my energy on any given day, just desperately trying to not be myself.
Oh.
And it just wore me out. And then finally, I heard a quote from a guy called Jerry Garcia from the Grateful Dead.
Right.
And the quote is, "Don't try and be the best in the world at what you do. Be the only person in the world that does what you do." Wow. And it sort of hit me all at once. I was like, you know what? I've got this cool music career that I never told anyone about because I was almost embarrassed by it. That I thought people would have preconceived notions about me, my past, what I was capable of, which would have all been correct. That's why I didn't want them to. And I was like, why not take this cool thing and marry it with customer experience? And the thing is, I know everybody watching out there is they're going to have their own story of how they got their love of customer experience. But for me, it took me a long time to realize it, but I got my love of customer experience from being in a touring band, because for me, putting on an amazing show for your fans night after night is exactly the same as putting on amazing experiences for your customers day after day. So, yeah, I married customer experience and music to try to teach people about customer experience in fun and interesting ways.
Well, speaking of fun and interesting ways, that little clip I played at the beginning is a little bit of a mashup, but that part with you collaborating with Snoop Dogg and ChatGPT, could you explain and all about customer service? Because quite honestly, maybe people don't know that really wasn't Snoop Dogg doing that.
It was pretty good though, wasn't it?
Pretty good. It's pretty good.
So where that came from was I put out a video, I think it was February this year. And in the video, I explained that I had forced a bot to listen to 1,000 hours of Nickelback, Bring Me the Horizon, and Linkin Park.
That could be construed as cruel and unusual punishment to a bot, by the way. I'm just Let you know.
Yeah. So if there is a robot uprising, sorry, whoopsie. I mean, they'll come after me first. Let's be honest. So I forced the bot to listen to 1,000 hours of those bands and then create a brand new, unique piece of music. I shared the first listen of that piece of music and my reaction to it, and it went viral on LinkedIn. Loads of people saw it, hundreds of thousands of people saw it, and there were hundreds upon hundreds of comments. And some people loved it, some people were scared, some people were excited by it, some people, there was disdain. Now, spoiler alert, if you haven't seen this already, some of you out there may have seen it. It wasn't real. It was a lie. It was a social experiment. I wanted to see how many people would believe that it was real. Because if I would have posted it, I don't know, 5 months ago before that, nobody would have believed it. They would have gone, haha, funny joke, James, and they would have got on with their day. But because of how impressively and how rapidly AI has evolved, the majority of people believed that it was real. Now, you might be thinking, well, hang on a second. If AI didn't write that music, who did? Take a guess. Yeah, it was my band.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So luckily, because I spent a lot of my life in the music industry, I've grown a thick skin and didn't find those comments soul destroying at all. But what I did afterwards is I made a new video confessing, explaining, no, it was a social experiment. I just wanted to see how many of you would believe it. You can't do that with AI yet. Right. But I did want to show people what you can do with AI. And that's where the Snoop Dogg video came from. I wanted to show them, like, look, you can't do that yet, but you can do this. You can take different parts of AI and use them in fun and interesting ways to create a brand new, unique piece of music. I hope Snoop Dogg hasn't seen it because he might sue me. But I haven't had any lawyers' letters yet, so fingers crossed. Yeah, so that's where that video came from.
And you use, about 3 or 4 different tools to actually pull that together, because like I said, it looks good. It sounds, I mean, there's little pieces where it sounds okay, but for the variety of the most of it is, it sounds good, it looks good, and it has context. And how long did that take you to do?
Like half a day, maybe.
Wow.
The thing that took me the most time was finding video clips that synced up and kind of made it look like he was delivering. That took the longest time, and AI didn't do that for me. I had to do that myself.
Okay, so us humans still have some useful purposes then.
Yes, and I think that is the big lesson from it, because without the human there, none of that would have been able to come together, because I used ChatGPT for the lyrics, I used UberDuck for the voice, I used SoundRaw for the beat, but then I had to take it as a human and make it all make sense together. And when it comes to AI in business, especially, we need to remember that without the humans, it is nothing. It is pointless.
I think that's the main lesson that I feel. I've been to a lot of events, Pega World, one of them, and that was a great event. I've been to a lot of industry events, about 7 or 8, and everybody is talking about AI and how great it is, and how everybody's got it in their way. But one of the most important messages or recurring themes that I've heard throughout every one of these events was, this is not a replacement. This is, some are calling it Copilot, like Microsoft, but you maybe Wingman is a good one. But they are
Wing
there.
person.
Wing person.
Thank you.
But the whole idea is, this stuff doesn't work well on its own. It's not really meant to work well on its own. It's really meant to work with a human, to assist a human, to help humans do better things for other humans, right?
Yeah, and the interest, I mean, you are right, Pega World was the best out of all of them. I'm pretty sure you said that. The AI by itself, I don't want to say it's worthless, because that's not fair, but if you go to ChatGPT and say, hey ChatGPT, suggest a nice restaurant for me to take my wife to, it might suggest somewhere. But then if I say to it, okay, book a table at the restaurant. It can't actually do anything. So one of the main topics from Pega World was this idea of the autonomous enterprise. And there's lots of elements that go into it, but it's this idea of the unification of AI and automation, having AI to create things or decide things, but then having the automation to actually go and do stuff with it as well, to actually make stuff happen, to get work done. And I think that's the most exciting thing at the moment, this unification of AI and automation to just make things happen for our customers better and faster and more conveniently than we ever thought possible.
When you mentioned the word autonomous, and I know we spoke with Francis Carden when we were there. Then we actually did a follow-up show with Peter Vanderputten, and that term comes up a lot. Can you talk about how automation and AI and autonomy all fit together and still allow humans to be in the ballpark, to be part of the equation?
Yeah. So, I mean, tell you what, one of our clients is an airline called Transavia. They're based out of Amsterdam in the Netherlands. And me and Peter Vanderputten did a talk there last week, the week before, a couple of weeks ago. And I opened with this story, which I will now tell you. Are you ready? Are you sitting comfortably?
I'm sitting down. So yeah.
Okay, cool. So it is about Guns N' Roses and an aeroplane. Now, full disclosure, I don't really know if this is true or not, but I'm going to tell you anyway because it helps me prove a point. So Guns N' Roses were going off on their first big headline American tour. And to get from state to state and city to city, they had a private plane. So it was a private jet that took them to each place. And one of the things they noticed was that all of the landings were really, really bumpy, like super bumpy landings. The landings were so bumpy, and they were talking to each other about it. Like, I can't believe that these private airstrips have got such poor tarmac. I can't believe the actual tarmac is so poorly maintained. You'd think with private airstrips it would be much, in much better condition. And this carried on all the way through the tour. And then the last date of the tour, they landed, and it was a particularly bumpy landing. They go and look at the tarmac, and they were really confused because the tarmac was smooth, super smooth, like black glass. It was flawless. And they were like, wait a second, why have the landings been so bumpy? So they go back onto this is how they walked onto the plane. They go back onto the plane, and they go to the pilot's door, and they go, nothing. Nothing. So they open the door, and they see the pilots passed out. So the moral of this story is, thank God for autopilot. Okay. Now, this is so like flying into Amsterdam, flying into Vegas. Even though I'd heard that story before, I would not have got on a plane without a human pilot there.
Right.
Okay. I would not have gotten without a human there.
Right.
But also, planes are pretty big, scary machines. I also wouldn't have got on unless they had the autopilot too. And that's going to be what the future of customer experience is. That's going to be the future of business. Customers are going to refuse to do business with large companies. I'm not talking like a bakery, like a small little bakery, but like with large companies. Customers are not going to do business with companies that don't have A, the human element, but B, that autopilot. So that autonomy there to be able to get stuff done lightning fast when it needs to get done, but also to guide humans when they have to have those more complex, empathetic, emotional experiences. So that was a long way of answering your question. Did you like my story?
I did like the story, but Guns N' Roses really should check to make sure that the pilots aren't at their actual concerts, because get them a ticket to a movie or something before.
Yeah.
Now you've been at this for a while. You were doing CX evangelism and things like that before the pandemic, and of course you've been doing it since ChatGPT took over the world.
Yeah.
Let's just start there, because it's only been like 7 or 8 months.
Yeah.
How has the perception of CX changed, if at any, since ChatGPT? And maybe I'll say, maybe not the perception, maybe it's the expectations for CX. Have they changed significantly since ChatGPT came up and everybody is starting to look at the possibilities of what can be done?
Well, I mean, from a customer point of view, expectations have, because the thing is, ChatGPT, it's like the most powerful chatbot to ever be released into the general public's hands. So you've got everyday people using ChatGPT, asking it all of these obscure and interesting questions in millions of different. And then I'll go onto a website and ask a chatbot, what time is your store open until? And it can't even answer that question. So overnight, the expectations have just gone through the roof. And we've got to realize this. Customers, no matter where they are in the world, no matter what country they're in, no matter what industry they're working with, they only speak one language, and that's experience. It doesn't matter. We are now, as customers, benchmarking companies on experience, not, oh, okay, well, that's an airline, so it's okay for them to be crappy, and this is a bank, so maybe I want them to be. It's just experience is experience is experience. So if I'm getting an experience from ChatGPT that understands what I'm asking and can answer me lightning fast with very high precision, and then I go to my bank and it can't even tell me what time its store's open until, it's crazy. And customers are starting to wake up and be like, wait a second, why can't you do that? If that can do it, why can't you? So I think when it comes to customers, expectations have gone through the roof, but also businesses have started to come back to this idea of the autonomous enterprise. There's a lot of talk about, is it a good thing or is it a bad thing?
Yeah.
It's neither.
It's a thing.
It is what it is.
You can't ignore it basically at this point, or
yeah, it's large companies are going to do it. And it's going to be for one of two reasons. It's either going to be to improve customer experience or to cut costs. Right. Now, building this idea of autonomy into your business, it can achieve both of those things. But if you only focus on the cost, you're pretty much only going to get that one thing. And that's where it's going to be the make or break. It's how you focus it. It's going to be the reason for you to do it. If you go into it just because you want to reduce costs, chances are you're going to mess everything up. You're going to make the experience much, much worse for the customers. And yeah, you'll lower costs, but you'll also lower your revenues because your customers will leave because you're giving a worse experience. Whereas if you go into it with the customer experience in mind, everything's going to get better. You're going to lower costs. You're going to improve your service at the same time. So this idea of the autonomous enterprise, it's going to happen. No doubt about it. Whether it's good, whether it's bad, really depends on the reason that companies are building these elements of autonomy. Does that make sense?
No, it does make a lot of sense. And I think the first thing you said, to talk about this was, this has gotten into the hands of like so many people so quickly, and people are using it in so many ways that I'm sure OpenAI never even dreamed they'd be using.
Yeah.
Which is good, and is probably kind of scary, because that means that in some ways, now that you as a company, as an enterprise, do not control the narrative with this thing. In a lot of ways, the end user, the consumer, is starting to control the narrative, which means that you have to react to them as opposed to them reacting to you, which is traditionally the way that they like to do this stuff. But because things have kind of gotten out of the barn, and then you also have to deal with stuff like this. The performance of the world's most powerful AI model has suddenly deteriorated. AI experts point to a secret overhaul by OpenAI. OpenAI's GPT got dumber. I mean, so there's so many things that are, I guess, facing companies and enterprises when it comes to this. Are you seeing them having issues trying to figure it out, how to really do this effectively? Because first there's this, it comes out of the blue for a lot of folks, and then it's, now everybody's using it, so we got to use it. Then it's, this sucker is getting dumber if somebody does something, and then there's, well, these folks are really doing things that we never thought, and we don't know how to support it, or how do we put it in our own. How difficult is this for companies to really get a firm grip on the technology and how to use it for, meeting these growing expectations for customers?
Yeah, I think you are right. There are so many companies now that are just scrambling to put AI into anything that they are implementing it badly, and there's no checks and balances there. And I mean, braver than I am, if you want to let AI loose on millions of customers, that's okay. That's pretty, but I think one of the things we need to step back and look at a little bit is there's two types of AI.
Yeah.
You've got the right brain and the left brain. So the right brain is the generative AI. That's the stuff that we've all been getting really excited about. So generative AI is the creative side. It can create content. So that is text, image, audio, video, 3D models. It can create stuff. The left-hand side of the brain is the decisioning side, where it can look at billions of different data points and then make sense of it and make decisions based on that. The decisioning stuff has been around for a long time, so it's not like it's a new thing. I mean, Pega have been doing AI decisioning for like over 20 years, I think it is.
Yeah.
So we've got a really good heritage when it comes to AI, and really understanding that you need to do it safely. You can't just let it loose because it's pretty bloody powerful. And if you just let it loose on your customers, you're crazy. You need to have those checks and balances in place. You need to. Now, with the decisioning, okay, you could look at a decision that gets spat out by AI and decide to do something with it or not. But when it comes to the generative AI, people are talking about, and this is a conversation I had with Don Sherman before, because one of the cool things that Pega is going to be able to do is, let's say that you've got a marketing message, and you'll be able to go in and say, make this marketing message more appealing to a millennial, right? And it'll go beep, boop, beep. That's the sound AI makes, in case you didn't know.
Yeah.
Beep, boop, beep, boop, beep. And it'll spit it out. It will create new images and new copy that is more appealing to a millennial. And I was like, do you think we will ever get to a point where it will be, make this more appealing to James Dodkins? And the AI will look at every single data point I have got in the world and make a bespoke marketing message that is personalized for me and only me. And he said no. And I was like, what? Sure. I was like, that'd be wicked. And he's like, no, not really. Because to do that at scale, you need to be able to trust that the AI is not going to go and do some crazy stuff. We may get to that point at some point where we trust AI so much that we will let it do stuff without that human intervention beforehand. But we're a very long way away from having AI create stuff and send it to our customers without having a human look at it and give it the okay first. So there are steps in there that we know have to be there because we've got the heritage of it. But there's a lot of companies that are just throwing it out there because it's the thing, and it's causing a lot of problems. Snapchat's a really good example. They created, I forget what it was called, Snap Buddy or something stupid like that. They created this thing, and there were people asking it, are you tracking my location? And it goes, no, we are not tracking your location. They go, okay, cool. Where is my closest McDonald's? And he goes, your closest McDonald's is here. And you're like, well, wait a second. Because they were just hell bent on going, AI is, have you heard of this thing? AI, let's do it in our thing. But then again, weirdly, Snapchat have been using AI for ages on the face filter things.
Oh, so, yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah. So they've been using it for ages. But even them, with that heritage of AI, when it comes to the generative AI, just going, just do it, do an AI, everyone, let's do an AI. And it goes wrong and then annoys everyone because it's lying to them and tracking their.
Yeah. And it does. And it annoys a lot more people at scale and a lot less time to do it. That's just the way it is.
Did you hear the story? And I might be getting this story wrong, but it's the general gist of it. The US government, it's always the US government doing mad stuff like this. The US government were like testing AI on like military, on missile launches and targeting.
Oh.
But what they did is, it was all simulated, so they're not actually doing it. But what they had is a human that told the AI missile launcher whether it can or can't fire. So the AI missile launcher would go beep, boop, beep, because that's the sound AI makes. And it would go, right, I want to bomb this thing. and the human operator would go, yep, you can bomb it, or no, you can't. Now, the AI was trained to kill certain things and it would get points for it. So all the AI wanted to do was get these points. But the AI started to realize, well, hang on a second. The parameters of this are exactly the same as the parameters of that other one that you said was okay. So now you're telling me I can't do it. And the AI got confused and the AI got annoyed. So what it did is it blew up the operator. So it could just fire what it wanted.
It sounds like 2001: A Space Odyssey updated or something, you know?
Yeah. So there's going to be a lot of unintended consequences with AI left to its own devices.
Yeah, I hope we're smart enough to realize that, you know, that we should not put our fates completely in the hands of artificial intelligence, you know, because that could cause real death, you know. So anyway, yeah, this has been great. Hey, let's do a shout out to Joe Richardson. She's one of my favorite people at Pega.
Legend.
She is. And you know what I told her when I saw her at Pega? I said, you know what? You should get James involved in this. He should be part of this master of ceremony gig that you got going, because he's got the chops for it. So,
dude, I very much appreciate that. That is but would you trust me up there?
Well, I would, but I don't have anything at stake.
Literally, we've been talking for half an hour. I've already spoken about heroin. The US, like AI missiles blowing up. I'm a loose cannon. They haven't tamed me enough yet. One day they will tame me enough that they will feel confident letting me loose on the
man,
world stage.
Well, you are free to come back and spend a few more good minutes with me anytime, sir. This has been so much fun and informative.
Thank you.
It's rare that you're able to have so much fun while still being informed quite a bit. And that's kind of like, you know, the ratio I'm looking for. Information, entertainment, smash them together. You get James Dodkins, folks. How'd you like that? How'd you like that? That was
nice.
That was kind of right off the top. But anyway, man, thanks again for doing this. And, you know, let me know when the next video, who are you going to incorporate next in your video AI ChatGPT collaborations?
That's a good question. I'm open to submissions if anybody wants.
Okay. You know, I'm a big Prince fan. Just saying.
Okay.
Although he's very, and I'm sure his estate is very, they don't play with the music. If somebody does stuff with it, they get that stuff yanked down. So
yeah, maybe not. AI is not very good at making singing either. Rapping is fine. It's quite good at that. Singing, not so good.
All right. Some of my favorites. Public Enemy. So that's Chuck D. KRS-One. Of course, Rakim. You know. So that's in the area. I saw you rocking that Run DMC looking shirt. So that's kind of in that era. So
okay. Leave it with me.
Okay. You heard it here. All right. So when it comes out, let me know.
I will.
I will. In the meantime, thanks again. And thanks everybody for checking this out. This has been a few good minutes. See us tomorrow. CRM Players is back tomorrow. We got a first time. We're going to have one of our buddies, Meg Bear, who is the president and chief product officer over at SAP SuccessFactors. Join us for the first time. And of course, we're doing Stump the Godfather. That's the show. That's the game that has taken over the whole United States. So you want to be there for that. All right. And I will see you tomorrow. Thanks again.